Guys, today on Investor Army, we have a special guest. We're going to talk about subject to and creative financing. We're also going to talk about affiliate marketing, go into some other topics like automation using RealFlow. This individual on my podcast today introduced me to this subject of subject to. And he's got his phone ringing in the background, but that's okay. We're going to continue on. But
that's money, right? Phone ringing, money.
Hey, if your phone's not ringing, you're not making money. But if he could teach me how to do subject to purchases, why not have him on here to teach you? He's an expert in Dallas-Fort Worth. He does more of these types of purchases than any other investor I know. Let me introduce you to my guest, West DFW REI leader, Tim Cook.
Morning, Connor. How you doing?
Tim, how you doing? Good to get you on here.
Great. Yeah, you've been trying for a few months.
I know you're a hard man to get. I mean, look, your phone's blowing up. It's already early in the morning, but guys, we got him on here, and we're gonna pick his brain a little bit here, and we're gonna go into an interesting topic that a lot of people ask me about all the time, and you want to learn more about, which is subject to investing. Owner finance investing is his main exit strategy on the back end of this type of transaction. But first, Tim, go ahead and talk about how you kind of got in the business, and we'll kind of introduce you here real quick.
Okay. Well, I spent the first part of my adult life in the Marine Corps, traveling the world and seeing all the world adventures, all those fun stuff. When I retired, I decided that I really didn't want to go to work for somebody else after all those years in the service. As much as I enjoyed it, I had multiple bosses that controlled my time all the time. And unfortunately, like many retirees, they go take a government contracting job because it's almost a sure thing. And I did that. I went to work supporting Lockheed on the F-35 program. But as soon as I got there, my Lockheed boss gave me a set of tickets to a Ron LeGrand seminar that was free. And, what they didn't tell me is it was free to get in, but not free to get out. And I spent thousands of dollars on the first couple of courses, and it's just all been uphill from there. I've just really gotten into it, really enjoyed the business. And I knew that I didn't want to continue working for somebody the rest of my life. So that's when my real estate business started, as I started studying that. And then about 5 years later, and I kind of took my time. I was one of these people wanted all my I's dotted, T's crossed, but I took my time, got my ducks in a row. I gave them a written resignation letter to resign in 12 months. And everybody said, man, you can't do that. All your secret clearances and stuff, they're going to escort you out of the building. Well, they didn't escort me out. And I stayed for another 12 months, and I've been full-time in the business since July of 2006. So, yeah, I don't know where that time's gone, right? 11 years ago?
Well, it's gone to doing a lot of deals and learning how to do some creative financing. But I think that's a great story because a lot of people don't make that plunge. And you made the decision, I'm going to do this, and you stuck to it. And I remember you telling me you went in and you started packing your stuff up. And they're like, what are you doing? You're like, don't you remember? I told you what I was going to do. Because people are they never hold their word. They say stuff all the time and they're flippant. And then all of a sudden, when someone does something that they say they're going to do, it scares them, right? So you went out there and you started investing. Did you have any troubles when you started, or was it pretty quick and easy for you? It's always interesting to find out how it goes for new investors. Yeah,
for me, I was slow out of the gate. I didn't do my first deal, which was a wholesale deal like many. That was probably 6 months down the road before I really got my first deal done. And that was probably more about me than anything. I just, I wanted to make sure I was doing it right. And I was trying to study so much money on education in the business and mentors and stuff is that I didn't want to repeat the mistakes of things that other people have already learned. So I studied it and studied it and studied it before I pulled the trigger. But yeah, it was off to a slow start. But once I got that first couple deals under my belt, it was smooth sailing from there. I just kept going and building and building and building. So, but yeah, it's everybody's different, right? Everybody learns it different.
And so now, years later, he runs one of the bigger REI clubs in Dallas-Fort Worth called the West DFW REI Club, where you can go and actually learn from Tim, and he talks a lot on subject to, which is what we want to go into today. Because this is a strategy that a lot of new investors see as their ticket to cash flow when they're not bank financeable, and they can't close on properties. They think that they can come in and take over the debt. Let's talk about subject to a little bit and kind of how you got into doing this strategy and kind of break it down in a basic kind of explanation for a new investor that's never heard of this strategy before.
Okay. So one of the things that got my attention about that strategy is that, I heard Ron LeGrand say in my first seminar, no write check, no lose money. And everybody just kind of looked at him, kind of funny and said, what the heck's that mean? Well, what it means is if you don't write a check in a deal, you can't lose any money. So, yeah, it's all about structuring that deal and being able to set it up so that you see the seller can see how they're going to benefit by selling you the house subject to, in other words, letting you take over that mortgage. That financing stays in place, but you get the deed on the house. And the one thing I find interesting, I try and correct people all the time, is that most people think that this type of deal is associated with somebody that's in trouble, that's in financial trouble. They're in default on their payments. They've lost jobs. They can't afford the payments. And I'm here to tell you that it's really about trust and providing solutions to sellers. Yes, a lot of them are going to be in trouble, but not everybody. And I've done a lot of subject to deals with folks that had great credit, but they saw the solution that I was offering solve their problem. And that's what this business is all about, is solving the problems of the home sellers. And if you can do that, you're going to do a lot more deals.
Yeah, so I think, a lot of people don't even attempt to make this offer, which is why they're not getting it under contract. They don't ever go in with an owner finance offer. They don't go with subject to offers. Also, especially when they come to a house that's got large equity, a big equity position, they're thinking, how am I going to get over this hurdle of explaining to them that they're going to have to leave the debt in their name, and they don't even attempt to do it. So you've probably done more subject to deals than anybody I know. What makes you think that? Is it just your approach, or do you have a special strategy that you going in ahead of time, or why do you think people are doing this type of transaction and signing over their property to you more often than what most investors are seeing in their own business?
Well, for one thing, I ask. The answer is no
help
if you don't ask. Okay.
Yep.
And you're right. I think a lot of people don't understand it. For example, a lot of wholesalers don't know how to do a subject to deal. So that's not a deal that they're going to make an offer for. There is a lot of work involved in the subject to type deals. It's a cool strategy to get a house for nothing. I mean, $10 earnest money is really nothing, right? But it's a lot of work, and you have to be able to explain the details and explain the benefit to the seller. And I'm honest with them. I tell them what the risks are too, the pros and cons, but also explain how you mitigate those risks, meaning how you minimize it to prevent problems.
Yep.
And so we talk a lot about the mortgage company and the due on sale clause. We go into great detail about what the due on sale clause means to both me as the buyer and to them as the seller. And I even go into strategies for preventing that from ever happening. And, one of the big things that can cause a lot of headache with subject to deals is insurance. If you don't if you don't use the right insurance company to start with, and you don't set up that policy and that evidence of insurance or declaration page and send it off to the mortgage company like it's supposed to be filled out, you could potentially have a problem. The biggest problem you're going to have is if you don't have it filled out correctly and you ignore it, which is the biggest problem you could create for yourself, is ignore a problem with subject to. But if you ignore the mortgage company when they say, hey, we got an insurance problem, what's going to happen is the mortgage company is going to put a forced place policy on that property, and it's going to be somewhere around 3 times more than the premium is going to be about 3 times more than the average premium. So what's that going to do to your cash flow?
Yeah.
that's going to totally screw that up, especially if you have sold it with owner finance and wraparound mortgage, and you start talking about raising insurance premiums triple the normal price. That's going to totally screw up that buyer.
Yeah.
So you got to be very careful. It does take a lot of detail to make sure it's right, and follow up. Don't just assume it's done, and don't just assume it's done correctly. Follow up on it and confirm it and make sure. And then even once you know that the evidence of insurance is done correctly, confirm that it was submitted to the mortgage company and received. Have your insurance agent call the mortgage company and confirm they received it and everything's good.
Yep.
I can't tell you how many times we've discovered that they didn't receive it or they received it and didn't approve it. We have to follow up on it and get it done correctly.
Okay. So
big difference.
Yeah. What do you think the main objection is that you deal with from the seller? Like, what is the biggest hurdle that you come into over your career on getting past that level of comfort to get them to want to move forward with you?
So, for one thing, I work hard on credibility because credibility is going to come into play not just with subject to deals, but and for those new investors on listening to your podcast, Connor, today is not too early for them to start building credibility. They may think they don't need it today. They may think that they're just out wholesaling deals, and that's not going to matter. But they need to start building that credibility. They need to start getting testimonials and online reviews, do everything online that they can. Some people won't do it online, so maybe they'll do it on pen and paper. That's better than nothing at all. But start that effort today, and then that'll pay off in the future. But the other objection that I see a lot of is people are worried about credit. They're afraid that you're going to be impacting their credit score, which you are. You could. You are in control of their credit score when they turn over that mortgage to you, because if you start missing payments, then that could start lowering their credit score. There's a lot of misconceptions about their ability to go buy after they sell using this type of transaction. I've been doing this for 17 years this year. I don't know where that's gone, but in 17 years, I have never had a subject to seller come back to me and say, I couldn't buy a new house because of the way I sold you my house. Yep. And I go into great detail. And I think part of that is because I go into great detail with them and explain to them what they need to do if they are going to go buy a house. One, they don't want to walk into the mortgage lender and say, hey, I sold my house subject to somebody, so they just took over the mortgage. Well, you're going to raise some flags with that.
Yeah, that's important. I was actually about to ask you that question, guys. Make sure you go back and listen to that again, what he's explaining there, because that comes up quite a bit. Is the homeowner's concerned about that, right? So they're never going to leave the debt, because what happens if they got 15 years left on that note? They don't want to tie themselves and put the handcuffs on. So that's a good bargaining point with them. Now, a lot of you wholesalers out there, in my opinion, you get so used to running a quick business. You're in and out. You're making offers. You can't just simply run in and make like a cash offer doing a subject to offer. Like, you can go into a house and make a homeowner a cash offer and walk out. If you're going to make a subject to offer, you're going to have to kind of build a little bit of rapport. You're going to have to kind of spend a little bit more time. It's not something you can just walk in and just kind of throw at them and expect to convert at a high level. Now, here's another misconception I have. Everybody's just like, okay, just take the deed. Anybody that'll sign it over, just take it and just take over any property. Let's kind of look at, certain properties. How do you kind of analyze it to make sure it's worth taking over? Because for one, it's got a cash flow, but I know people that are like, we'll take over any property as long as they'll sign it over. And this has got a lot of people in trouble.
So that's a really good point, Connor. Is getting a free house is a great concept, but is it really free? If you happen to take over a mortgage that is high interest rate, which they are still out there, there's a lot of people that never bothered with refinancing, and maybe they couldn't, or maybe they just didn't think it was worthwhile or whatever. But if you take over a mortgage, it's got a really high interest rate to it, and it has a ton of work to it that needs to be done. and it's weird and it's in a bad location, you're just setting yourself up for failure.
Yep.
Now, you don't have to do that subject to, but you could put that under an option contract and go find a buyer for it and try to market it with owner financing that way. It depends on what the numbers are and the condition and stuff. Maybe you could do a cash deal on it, but if you're over leveraged, you got a high interest rate, needs a lot of work, you're probably going to find an owner finance buyer first. But I wouldn't close on a deal like that as a subject to deal. I'd go find a buyer before I did anything with it. So that's just my opinion. I know a lot of people that will go take any house too. I will tell you that I do take a lot of subject to deals that a lot of people don't take. One is a lot of people are worried about adjustable rate mortgages. And I don't know if I just got lucky or what, but I've got some adjustable rate mortgages I've had for 10 plus years, I'm paying 2 and 3% on, and I'm selling on 8% wraps.
Yep.
So the other thing that I look at very closely when I'm doing my analysis is what's the cash flow? Sometimes I may take a subject to deal that doesn't have a lot of equity with the understanding with that seller that I'm probably not going to sell that right away because there's no equity. So I'm probably going to go rent it for a couple of years, get a nice cash flow on it as a rental property, or sell it on a wrap and do it that way. So, but that means that the seller, I'm not going to push my buyer to refinance quickly. I'm going to let them pay down on it for a while, get a nice cash flow on it on a monthly basis before I start really encouraging that buyer to do credit repair and get refinanced and pay me off, which is when the seller gets paid off. That is one thing that I spend a lot of time on when I'm in the upfront phase of making the offer, is that I explain to them the whole process, start to finish, what to expect along the way.
Yep.
If they don't know what that process is and what to expect along the way, you're probably going to start getting phone calls and they're going to be upset. Well, I didn't know this. I didn't know that. How long is this going to take? When are you going to have my loan paid off? Things like that. So again, I go through great detail explaining all that. In 17 years of doing subject twos, I've really only had one seller to give me a little bit of a hard time, but it rightfully so. I mean, it took me almost 10 years before I finally refinanced and paid that off. But a lot of it, the market crashed. I had a bad tenant in it. I had a bad owner finance buyer, all of those things combined. And the one thing I never do to a seller is I never promise I can't do something that I never promise something I can't control.
Yep.
Meaning I don't know what the market's going to do. I don't know what Mother Nature's going to do. I actually sold a house one time to a husband and wife set of real estate attorneys, which my attorney wanted to shoot me for doing that because of the legal problems they could have caused for me. But I did. And the funny thing is when I went to meet them in Starbucks to sign the contract, I started laughing when we sat down, and they both looked at me and said, "What are you laughing at?" I said, "My attorney would shoot me if I told him that I was about to sell a house to you." And they said, "Yeah, you're right. I understand." But anyhow, I always want to underpromise and overdeliver.
Yep.
But I'm very detailed about the whole process so they know what to expect. The other thing I really emphasize in this whole process with the seller is communications. Communications can prevent so many issues from even becoming issues. And what I mean by the communication is they got to keep us informed of phone number changes, address changes, email changes. We have to be able to communicate throughout the transaction, whether that's 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years. We have to stay in touch. There may be something I might need. And it does happen. It really does happen.
Okay. So let's talk about different loans to take over, right? VA, FHA, are there any loans to stay away from, or are there certain loans that you get excited when you see they have on the property, or is there any complication with this, or any of them more likely to have the due on sale clause called, or kind of what's your opinion on that?
Well, in 17 years, I've never had any of my loans called due. I've never personally known anyone to have a loan called due, but I've heard that you don't want to deal with HELOC, home equity line of credit. I've never done one of those, but I've done every other kind of loan out there as a subject to.
Okay, let's touch on the due on sale clause real quick. So Amy Sayer from August REI, who you know, was on here, and she services a ton of loans. She said in her whole career, she's only seen it happen 4 times. And the worst thing that happened was they had to sell the property right then and make their profit sooner than they thought, right? So a lot of people, this is like the big issue with, taking houses subject to is, oh, what if they call the due on sale clause? What if they call the loan due, right? So let's talk about that a little bit, and go over the due on sale clause, and then what happens if they actually call it? What's the risk, right?
Okay. So the due on sale clause means that if there's a change in the ownership of the property, which there is, the deed is going to exchange hands between the two of us, and that change is going to be documented on public records. So the lender will be able to see that information. Now, they're not told, up front about that new deed being filed, but it is filed on public records. That's part of the transaction. So it says that if there's a change in ownership, that the lender has the right to call the loan due. Doesn't say they will. It says they have the right to call the loan due. In reality, they don't do that. What the lender wants is they want payments. The mortgage lender is not in the real estate business. They are in the lender business, lending business. And all they want to do is lend money, and they want to collect payments. If you don't pay the payment, then you are potentially going to get the loan called due.
Yep.
Now, the thing I tell all my students, and I made a big point of this a couple months ago at my Subject 2 class at my West DFW REI group. I think you were there for that, weren't you?
I've been to before.
Yeah. So the one thing I mentioned several times is don't do anything to trigger or cause the lender to go look at public records or go look at the file for this loan. And what I mean by that is, if you miss a payment, what are they going to do? They're going to look at the account. If your new insurance policy is submitted and it's incorrect, what are they going to do? They're going to go look at the account. Every time you cause the lender to go look at the account, you run the risk of getting their attention, because they're going to see that the borrower's name that's on the loan is not on the deed.
Yep.
So you want to do everything possible to prevent them from having to go look at the account and see that the names have changed. So what's the point there? Set up payments on auto pay. Make sure that they go to auto pay.
Yep.
Make sure that you monitor those payments in the escrow analysis. So if it's an escrowed account, which I highly recommend, every one of your loans is escrowed. In escrows, for those of you that don't know, means your payment also includes taxes and insurance. So it's collected up front every month, so that once a year the mortgage company can pay the lender. Pay the taxes and pay the insurance automatically for you, so you don't have to. But if those every year the mortgage company does an annual escrow review to see, pay out the payments, but also see if they need to increase the escrow amount each month so that you'll have enough money in the account next year. Well, when they do those escrows, guess what? Payments go up. Duh, right? Taxes and insurance goes up. That means that your monthly payment, your PITI, principal, interest, tax, and insurance, is going to go up. If you don't go back and change your web bill pay to increase the payment amount, guess what?
Yeah.
When your next month payment gets submitted, it goes into suspense. So now you've caused the lender to look at the account again and see what's going on. So there's another opportunity where they could call the loan due.
Yep.
So, you have to monitor this. You have to make sure it's paid on time. When you get that escrow analysis in the mail, you've got to make sure that you update the payment amounts so that you don't have any issues like that. So
Yep.
that's just some of the things that really can make a difference and help you and the seller sleep better at night.
Yeah, that's some really good information. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about before we transition into a couple other things that I think is important.
Can I say one more thing before we move on, Connor?
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep. Go for it.
The other thing I want to make sure that everybody understands if you're going to do subject to deals is that you must make sure that you either submit a change of address for that mortgage statement or you get online access to that account statement so that you can monitor those payments. And guess what? If you didn't change the address, guess who's getting the escrow refund check that comes out once a year if there's one due? So if you don't change that address, your seller's getting that escrow refund check, and they may not have even paid $1 towards escrows. So very important point to change that address and get online access if you can.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So you guys, a lot of people talk about this strategy like, oh, it's no big deal. It's real easy to do. There's a lot of working parts to it. I don't know, Tim, are you doing, like if people wanted to reach out to you, are you doing consulting, taking students on to teach them this strategy? Because I'm sure a lot of people listening to this right now are like, yeah, I think I want to work with Tim, and I know your time is limited. So, but what's your thoughts on that if people wanted to reach out to you?
Absolutely. Of course, it's going to be based on my availability at the time they call, but I'll be happy to work with them and partner up with them on those kind of deals.
Yeah, guys, I couldn't think of anybody.
I get a lot of calls like that.
Yeah, I mean, me included years ago, right?
That's right.
Like I couldn't think of anybody better to teach you how to do the strategy and do it right. Okay, the last thing I want to touch on.
By the way, how many calls did you call? How many times did you call me?
I had to start using different numbers because you stopped blocking my calls.
You caught on.
Hey, what do you have? You got like 150 numbers, I heard, or something like that. No.
I got that many email accounts, I think.
Well, let's talk about the last thing here, because your exit strategy, right? So some people do this to take over and rent the property. Some do an owner finance wrap. Some are looking, and we'll touch on what you're talking about a second ago, because I think it's important, because you have a credit repair company that you're kind of can help people with, because you want to get their credit up so they can finance out. But also some people are just wanting to take over the debt for a short time period to flip that house, do a traditional buy, fix, and flip, but they don't want to have to go borrow the money and pay all those points up front. So kind of what's your main focus when you're doing these transactions? What's your big exit strategy, and what's working best for you?
So just like going into the deal, I make multiple offers to that seller because I found that not just one really fits the bill. I like to give people choices. Well, on the exit side, I like to have choices too. So I look at, am I going to sit on it for a while as a rental property? Honestly, if it's a low equity deal, but it has a low interest rate on it, and it's in a good location and it's in good shape, I may very well turn around and rent that for a while to build up some equity in that property. Most of the time, though, I'm selling my subject to purchases on an owner finance wraparound mortgage here in Texas. And that is a great strategy because, one, I don't have to deal with tenants and toilets. And two, I don't have to do much in the way of work to that property because most of the owner finance buyers will do the work. A lot of people like to do it to fix it to their family's desires and satisfaction and stuff. And I like that strategy because I don't have to pay for it. Now, sometimes the negative side to that is you may not like what they do, right? But it is their house once you've sold it that way, and they can do what they want. The thing that I do highly teach along the way to my buyers is at some point they're going to want to get credit cleaned up and refinance. It's not just about credit repair, though. They also have to maintain the house and keep the value in that home in order to refinance.
Yep.
So if they work on the credit repair and get the credit squared away, but they've destroyed the value of the house, then they may have a difficult time refinancing. So I try and educate my buyers. I do some periodic emails and blogs to the buyers about tips and tricks on credit repair, tips and tricks on home maintenance, spring, winter, fall maintenance tips and preparation for the refinance. If they want to do some remodeling, some of the primary things that they should do in the home to increase the value the most, it's to increase the chances of success for them to refinance at some point in the future. So we try to educate them a lot and make sure that they are successful with that. And then, so we said rentals, owner finance, wraps, and then there's flips. I just put a property on the market this week. I sent you pictures, I think, on that property here in Weatherford, and we did a complete rehab. It's the biggest rehab I've done to date, and it took my selling agent a total of 30 hours to get my first offer. I can't believe it. It took her 30 hours to get that first offer.
Yeah, I don't know why it took me so long to get that offer in, but Tim accepted my subject to offer, guys, and I got a great house, and it's going to be a good investment property for me.
Anyhow, this house was gorgeous. I don't do a lot of subject to purchases and then complete rehab and flips. I do a few. I mean, the market's good right now for that type of thing, but it just depends on what the house is.
Yep.
So rentals, owner finance, wraps, and flips.
Okay, so guys, the thing you need to take away from what we're talking about right now is the education process of working with the seller and the buyer on the back end. He's talking about credit repair. So are you still, I know you've had relationships with different credit repair companies. I think this is a good transition, right? Because while you're on here today, I want to go into affiliate marketing, which is a great secondary income stream for real estate investors, especially new investors who are struggling trying to build their business. So are you still working with a credit repair company, and do you have an affiliate link for that one?
I do not have that anymore. They got bought out by somebody recently, and I just haven't gone back in and got signed back up there. I need to pursue that. A lot of times what I can do is I can refer them to Ruth Ann with Service First Mortgage, and she will guide them through that if it's minor stuff. I do need to find a major credit repair service now for those.
Okay, before we go into the affiliate marketing, let's talk about the reason why you're wanting to refi these, because he's taking over the debt on these properties at a lower interest rate. The loan started, say it was a 20-year loan, started 10 years ago, right? So he's got a lower interest rate on it. The principal's paid down, and he's putting a new loan on it. It's hard to explain, through a podcast or a video, but every month the gap's spreading, right? So his equity is increasing, and he's wanting to go get those individuals who he sold the property to on the back end at a higher interest rate to finance out to capture that equity. Is that kind of what you're doing there?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to get my equity out of the house, but the other thing is that the seller wants their name off that loan.
Yeah.
And even though I never promise when I can do that, I do tell them it'll be as soon as I can actually do it, because that's when I get paid. So, I don't want to drag it out forever. And here's a big lesson for everybody, and you need to write this down. The longer you're in a subject to owner finance wrap, the more chances there are of that buyer defaulting. Let me say it again. The longer you're in that arrangement, buying it subject to and selling it on an owner finance wrap, the more chances there are of that buyer defaulting and something happening. And let me just tell you the far extreme of something that could happen. I think I told you this recently, Connor. I had a subject to deal that I bought. This has been a couple of years ago, and it was one of those low equity deals. So I didn't close on it first. I went and found a buyer on it. So I did an option to start with, went and found a buyer. I found a buyer really fast from my buyers list that I build every day. And I think we're going to talk about buyers list in a few minutes, but that buyer was on my list. and she had a good down payment. She really needed my help to buy owner finance. So she gave me $10,000 down in this house, I think it was, and then she took over the underlying mortgage. I didn't wrap it. I just sold it subject to. So she took over the current payments. She was in the house about 3.5 years. She was doing what she was supposed to. She was proud. She was a homeowner. She'd always been a renter. She was a homeowner, and she was fixing this house up. In order to pass FHA inspection, she had to have the house rewired. She went and did that. She put a new roof on. I mean, she was doing all the right things, working towards refinance. Well, about 3.5 years into it, I got a phone call from my seller's wife, my seller's new wife. Okay. Seller's new wife. This is important. Seller's new wife. The seller had a stroke, had a major stroke. She was never added to his account. Well, what does that mean? She couldn't access anything to do with this house mortgage, and she was just banking on me completing the deal and getting it refinanced and pay off the loan. So about a month after I get this phone call that the seller had a major stroke, and more than likely he wasn't going to recover from it. Unfortunately, I found out he has passed away since. But about a month after this phone call, I get another call from Amy at August REI telling me that the heirs of the buyer passed away, and the heirs were trying to get a hold of me to talk about this property and try and figure it out. So never in my 17 years have I had a seller of a subject to deal and a buyer of that deal pass away on me. And probably the moral of the story here, the point of the whole story is details matter and the documentation matters. And had I not had all the documentation that I needed because of the trust and the subject to deal, which we don't have time to talk about the trust side of it, but that documentation is very important to have. And it allowed me to successfully get the buyer and the seller all taken care of and get it closed out. But yeah, what a deal. Most people would have just panicked if they had both a buyer and a seller pass away on you. So
I think everybody would.
Yeah.
Guys, go check out. Go check out the other podcast, guys, that we have earlier with Amy Sayer, who does a lot of these loan servicing, or who's keeping track of these records, which is going to help you a lot later.
Yes.
Also, always talking about when you wrap it, the longer you have it out there, the less likely they are to make the payments. I just took one back, literally this week. So make sure you get them refinanced out as soon as possible. Now, let's go into affiliate marketing. Affiliate marketing is very strong, especially in this business when there's lots of different third-party companies that you can work with and build relationships with. Let's touch on affiliate marketing and kind of explain that to people, because this is something that I feel should be a no-brainer for most real estate investors, because they're already doing this. They're already overlapping with lots of areas they can capitalize using this strategy. They just don't do it. So what do you think? What do you think the best way to explain affiliate marketing to someone who's never heard of it before right now?
Well, one way that I think of it anyhow is, for example, I'll take you. You've done all the work putting together a program. I got the easy job. I just have to promote it and market it to my list, right? So it's somebody going out and creating a product of some sort or service. It could be a service too. And they give you a special link that is connected to you specifically. And if you refer somebody to that link and they sign up, you get paid. And if you do that over and over and over again, then you make a nice little passive income. And I've always liked passive income. I've been in different passive income type businesses for a long time. I do a lot. I have a lot of those affiliate type services and programs on my allwholesaleproperties.com website. And they're all over to the right-hand side of the page. If you go to allwholesaleproperties.com and take a look at the right-hand side of the page, you can click on each one of those tools and services there and see the different things that are available to you, especially if you're a a new investor looking for tools to help you in the business, and especially if you're in Texas.
Yep.
Another cool one that's in there that just makes a whole lot of sense for every real estate investor to be in is discount electricity and natural gas. Man, I mean, if you're a big landlord and you have a lot of properties, you could have those properties signed up on Ambit Energy. You'll see that information in there. And you can either earn free electricity for your own house, or you can earn residual income off of everybody's house that signs up under you. What a great combination to go with a real estate investing business.
Yeah, affiliate marketing is great, guys. Go on over to allwholesaleproperties.com, because Tim was the one that taught me a lot about affiliate marketing early on in my career, and go look at how that's set up. So the way it kind of works is a product creator, right, creates a product, say like our homestay program. And if he puts that link on there, if you buy from his link, he gets a commission for the sale. But it's still going to be the same cost to you as the buyer, whether it's $100 if you go to the company directly. Say you came to me and bought my product from me directly. It's going to cost the same amount as if you buy it from Tim's link, but he's going to get a part of my commission. And this is how Amazon built such a big business so fast, because they have a bunch of links out there put out there by people doing their affiliate program. So like if you're on Facebook and you click an Amazon link, that's not a link put out there by Amazon. That's put out there by an individual like Tim or me or you. And so whether you buy a book or a television, someone's getting a commission, and Amazon's paying them post-sale, so they don't have to pay a huge sales force. And so, guys, there's a lot of products out there that you can link. He just talked about Ambit Energy, right? So go check out some of those links. And it's great for everybody around, because the product promoter or the product creator gets his product in front of a lot more people, in front of more audiences. The person promoting the product gets to make a commission, and individuals who are buying the product may not have come across such a good service on their own. And there's lots of things in this business that can really help you with what you're doing, such as RealFlow, which we'll talk about right now, which is we're going to kind of transition to automation of the business. But Tim's got an affiliate link to RealFlow, and he's also one of the top 6 individuals in the company he's on the Pro Users Council. I'll let you talk about that a little bit, because a lot of people ask me about, property management software or CRMs and what should they be using. And let's talk about RealFlow a little bit here.
Okay.
So
I've been a big believer and user of RealFlow for probably about 7+ years. I didn't get in at the very beginning, but it was shortly after. And the reason I did that is I was tired of all the disjointed pieces of my business, from marketing to property information sheets to seller leads to buyer leads and so forth. And I just got tired of all the separation of all these pieces. I was looking for a system, and that system that I found was RealFlow. I've tried a lot of others. There's a lot of good, a lot of bad, a lot of not so good, but I just settled on RealFlow, and I've stayed there. Well, I do a lot with trying to make things better for RealFlow, and that's just the way I am with everybody, trying to make things better. If I see something that's broke, well, that caught on with RealFlow, and they've invited me to sit in on the Pro Users Council Mastermind, and there's 5 or 6 of us around the country. And we are working together. We have monthly calls, and we talk about how do we make the system better. Well, it's already really good, but there's a lot of little things that we can improve on, and they are dedicated. And I think this mastermind group shows that they're really dedicated to making the best tool available to real estate investors.
Yep.
So one of the things that I like is the fact that everything I do, buyers and sellers, all goes into my back office area of RealFlow. And I can build my sellers automatically. I have a lot of different niche websites, foreclosure, probate, ugly houses, free and clear houses, so on and so forth. And all of the leads that are generated from that go into my back office, so they're all there when I open up the account. The other thing that I can do is build my buyers list 24/7 because of the buyers list squeeze page in there, which is called tradecash4houses.com. Tradecash4houses.com. And they all go in there. They sign up. They tell me what they're looking for, and that just gives me a bigger list in my system for when I do have deals. And it just, to me, there's nothing better out there than to have that system. And I can help promote other investor properties through RealFlow as well, because it's networked through the entire country, U.S. and Canada, with over 26,000 users. So I can help sell properties in Canada, Alaska, wherever it is, because of the way RealFlow works. So
Yeah.
I just a big believer in it.
Are you doing, so you put on a class usually like once a year at your West DFW REI club on this. Guys, we could go into RealFlow. He does like a full day presentation, so it's hard. There's so many things that can be done with it. The power matching you just talking about is essentially tapping into other people's buyers lists internally through the network. They have rehab estimator tools on there, calculating tools, an ability to create a photo link on there. Guys, like if you're on my buyers list, you've seen this. That's how I put that link in our buyers list when we send out a deal that they click on, and it redirects them to a different landing page where they can scroll through the photos. So there's a lot that you can do with RealFlow. Now, I don't know, I know you have in the past, or people that sign up under your link, do you give them a free consulting call or like a 30-minute call to kind of jumpstart it, or what are you doing with that?
I do. First off, that link gets them a 60-day free trial.
Okay.
And if they will reach out to me, we'll give them my email address here at the end of the call. But if they'll reach out to me and let me know they signed up, I will send you a link with about a dozen videos that I have created on how to get you started, get you best started with using RealFlow. And my referrals that have told me this, or that have used it, have said that that really helps them jumpstart their business using RealFlow. There's a lot of little detail that can help you get set up and going faster, and little tips and tricks, and I share those. One new cool tool I want to tell you about with RealFlow is called Mobi Messaging. Well, they've had Mobi Messaging for a long time. So what that is the ability to text and voice message your buyers list for those people that have signed up. Well, now the next level of Mobi Messaging is you can actually create marketing campaigns using text messaging in RealFlow. So you can go out to a property. Let's say you're a landlord and you want to build a renters list. You can go put a sign out at the property that says, like this rental, text, and you can put a number in there and they'll send you back. That goes back to RealFlow. RealFlow will turn around and send you instructions on how to view that property. Ready to apply? You put a message in the text that says ready to apply, and they have another text code that they put in there, and the system sends them back a rental application. So, you can building these campaigns now. It's done 24/7. You don't have to do anything other than set up the campaign. And thinking about that, what I'm going to be doing is building a buyer's list campaign using the Mobi text messaging and getting people to sign up, based off a text message that goes out. So it's a powerful system. It's just people have to learn it and go do it.
Yep. So guys, very, very powerful text messaging. Like if you look at the way you can reach out to a buyer or a seller or anybody as a lead, you got email, phone calls, text messaging. I mean, if you do a lot of wholesaling and you send out big email blasts and you have a big buyer's list, you can see the data, right? Most people are not getting anywhere probably between 10 and 25%, depending on the price point of the property. People, what do they do if they see a phone call coming in from a number they don't recognize? They click it off most of the time, unless you're in this business and it could be a seller. But who looks at their text messages? Literally like everybody, right? Plus, it makes it easier for someone who's right there in the street corner to text it in real quick, as compared to writing down a phone number or writing down a website and going back home and sitting down at their computer and doing that action later to contact them. So it's very powerful, guys. So check out realflow.com. Now,
the other nice thing about this, Connor, going back to my comment earlier about why I started using RealFlow, it's a system. And all of this Mobi messaging stuff, all the call capture of the incoming text messages and stuff is all captured in your buyer's list. It's all added to it. So, it's all in that same system.
Yep. So guys, even though Tim does a lot of, nice rehabs and he does a lot of creative financing, he still understands the power of wholesaling and building a buyer's list and creating a database of buyers. And so we're talking about building a buyer's list using RealFlow. Let's kind of talk on this the last thing while you're here, on building a buyer's list and the strength of doing so. And I think a lot of investors are like, well, I'm a landlord, or I'm a rehabber. Why do I need a buyer's list, right? Let's talk about that real quick and explain why everybody should be building their buyer's list as big and as deep as possible with quality buyers.
Okay. So the first thing I'll tell you is that there's a lot of people in this business that is short-lived in business. They hear a seminar, they hear an ad, they'll go to a free class, and they think it's a get-rich-quick thing. So they jump in the business. They get out there, people find out about them, and they try and join everybody's buyers list and stuff. Problem is, they don't want to learn the business. They don't want to spend any time on learning it correctly and getting educated. And they go about it all wrong, and they drop out of the business. So they may be on your buyer's list today, but they might be gone next week, next month, next year. So there's no such thing as too big of a buyer's list. And I just think that if you want to be successful in this business, you should be building that buyer's list 24/7. We do a lot of things to have that list building all the time. So my virtual assistant will post ads to, investor type ads to all over the world and different websites and stuff to drive traffic to my buyer's list to get them to sign up. They get a free report on how to find more houses when they sign up, and then they get added right into that buyer's list automatically. But we also have other avenues of capturing investor buyers. I mean, we're members of a lot of different investor club forums and chat rooms, and people are all the time saying, add me to your buyer's list, and putting their email addresses on there, Well, that's a buyer that you should reach out to. So my assistant will go out and connect to them and see if they want to join our list. Now, I'm a little bit different in this list building than some. Some people will just go scrape all the email addresses they can find and just add them to the list. I don't do that. We get all the addresses we can, but we send them an invite to come join the system voluntarily. We're not trying to force people to sign up. Believe it or not, there's a lot of new investors that won't join a buyer's list because they misunderstand and they think they got to be buying houses instead of just signing up to receive the deals and see if it's something they're interested in, or maybe they have a buyer that may be interested, but they won't sign up because they think they can't buy a house. They haven't learned the business of wholesaling and assigning and so forth. But my virtual assistant, she'll be posting ads all the time. She'll be reaching out to other investors. I get a lot of buyers coming in through my All Wholesale Properties site that is not connected to my system. So my VA will go and add them to the system. That is one disconnect I have with my Investor Carrot site, is that it's not connected to RealFlow. But I do believe that you got to be building that list all the time for every type of buyer that you can find. Again, with RealFlow, you can build them by landlord, turnkey landlord, rehabbers, owner finance, lease option, rent to own, commercial. You have all those different categories. Again, this is one of the things I like. You can categorize your buyers so you're not sending unwanted properties. How many times do you get a property that you're not interested in? If you only want to do $50,000 buy and hold properties, why do you want to receive a commercial property in Alaska?
Yep.
You don't, right? You want it for your area. You want the type of property that you want. RealFlow allows me to do that.
Yeah, guys, you have to continuously build it. Plus, like you just said, you never know what property is going to come across your plate. You don't know what you want to take title to. What happens if it's just a huge product and you don't have a crew ready? Or what? Here's a good example. I know someone that just did a 6-figure wholesale deal on a big piece of land, like a 60, 80 acre piece of land. If they hadn't been building their buyer's list, that would have been $100,000 or more out of their pocket. But you don't know what's going to come across your plate. Plus, by building a big buyer's list, you're connecting yourself with the network in your area. if you're active on it and you're sending out deals, people see you as someone that's actually in the business, and it's going to create a lot of different results for you. People reaching out to you to want to work with you, lenders wanting to work with you. You're more credible. So there's a lot of different benefits that come from building a big buyers list and connecting to your local area network.
So one other thing on that, Connor, is that, building a buyers list when you're brand new in the business can be a manual effort. I mean, you talk to somebody, you get a call from somebody that's a buyer, you add them to your list, you drive down the road, every bandit sign you see, that could be a buyer, right? And even if they're selling a house, they had to buy it before they could sell it. So that could be a buyer that you could be calling and adding to your list. But once I'm tired of doing manual things, things that take a lot of work. So get to the point where you can automate that process. That's why having a buyer's squeeze page where people can sign up automatically on your site, that's a great way to go. And then at some point, hopefully you can delegate the task to a VA to keep building your list by posting ads that drive traffic. You build an ad or post an ad that says, need more deals, looking for distressed properties in Fort Worth, Texas. Then you post those ads and say, visit tradecashforhouses.com to receive our deals as we get them, and that just automates that process for you and speeds up the process of building the list bigger. So,
yep. So guys, here's the main thing you need to understand. If you have a big buyers list, you will never be out of business, right? And we talk about this a lot on the Investor Army YouTube channel. One of the strategies, even the home study program we have on joint venture wholesaling is, go build a buyers list in your market, build it using the internet, using free resources, and connect other people who didn't build a buyers list, who have a deal that can't sell it. And literally you can do this strategy with no money out of pocket, because that front end wholesaler has already spent their money marketing for the deal. They put their earnest money, their option money. And so as long as you have a buyers list that you can connect other investors in your market, you're never going to be out of business. So it's very, very powerful. Okay, and we're coming up towards the end here, and we're going to wrap it up. But let's talk a little bit, because if people are in Dallas right now, and you haven't been to Tim's club, the West DFW REI Club, or you're coming through, let's talk about when you hold these meetups and where and how they can find it.
Okay. All right. So I will send you the link to the group so you can put it down below the video. But it's called the West DFW REI Group. It's important that you have the name correctly if you're trying to search on it, because there's a lot of groups and clubs and so forth in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But we'll have the link posted down below the video. We meet the first Saturday of every month, unless it conflicts with a major holiday such as Christmas or Thanksgiving or something. But it's the first Saturday of each month. We are down in Southwest Fort Worth now at Texas Mortgage Bank. We have a great location there. It's a big room, nice big screen, free breakfast. So be sure to come for the free breakfast, if nothing else. But the thing that's probably the most beneficial to coming to this group is the networking. We like to think that the education part's great too, because we do spend about 2 hours every month in education. But the networking with other like-minded people is the thing that you'll get the most out of, as long as you don't come in and stand in the corner and not talk to anybody. If you come in, shake hands, exchange business cards, tell people what you do, what you're looking for, how you can help them, then you'll gain a lot by coming to this group. So you'll find it's a really good group.
Yeah, besides from podcasts and YouTube channel guys, or YouTube channels, go into these live REI Club meetups is one of the best ways for a new investor to start their business. I used to go to a ton of them. I used to go to Tim's. I went to a number of them around DFW. And a lot of the people I do deals with now, a lot of my lenders and individuals I met at these clubs, right? And don't ever judge anybody. Talk to everybody, right? Because usually it's the guy in the front with a tricked out, pimped out suit trying to act like he knows everything that's not doing any deals. And it's the guy in the back with the Tommy Bahama, in sweatpants on with long hair that it's worth like $50 million, right? Looking in the back, trying to find new people going in the business to lend his money to. So don't ever judge anybody, because you never know who you're sitting next to, right? So Tim, you gave us some really good information, guys, on subject 2. Guys, if you need some help, Tim's willing to help you with the consulting on that. look into affiliate marketing if you haven't already done so for your business. If you're new in the business and you need extra marketing money, a lot of y'all have some costs that come in every month. You have to have your websites, your email servicing company like Aweber or GetResponse. These things cost a lot of money for someone starting their new business, and to bring an extra $300, $400, $500 a month through affiliate marketing can really help a new business owner kind of take that pressure off, take the edge off, right? So go check out his allwholesaleproperties.com. He does a great job of marketing those affiliate links. Also check out some of the products he has, right? Because I use most of those in my business, and they'll probably be good for you too. If you come to Dallas, go check out West DFW REI. And if you want to get RealFlow, contact Tim. Now, before I let you go ahead and give your best contact information, how you want people to contact you if they want to reach out to you.
Okay, great. The website is www.allwholesaleproperties.com, allwholesaleproperties.com. The best email for me is master, REI, at allwholesaleproperties.com. And if you need to call, the best phone number is my office number is 817-599-8058, 817-599-8058. And again, one thing I want to just point out on the All Wholesale Properties website is be sure you go visit the Investor Resources tab at the top. Investor Resources. There's a ton of great tools in there, especially if you're new in the business. You need to go check them out, especially the comps tools. If you're buying houses in Texas or Indiana, there's some great tools there that can help you. They actually provide true MLS data and not free resources. Be cautious. I actually know somebody that ended up filing bankruptcy because they were doing deals based off of free resources. Not only did they analyze it with the wrong comps from free resources, but they borrowed money from a private lender that ended up defaulting, and he had to file bankruptcy. So true MLS data is so important. And if nothing else, you're really not sure. Once you get the true MLS data, get a mentor. Find a joint venture partner, Connor, myself, somebody that's been in the business a while that can help you. So the whole reason you want to get a mentor is to take the fear out of doing that deal. Yep. And just making sure everything is good. You know, you may have done it perfectly, but you're still scared to death. So let that mentor walk you through that and help you. So call Connor, call me, call somebody else you know that's a mentor.
Yep. Well, I really appreciate you coming on here. You've been a big impact and big influence on my life, guys. So I appreciate you picking up my call years ago after I had to call you, I don't know, 1,000 times, right? But guys, reach out to Tim. He's a busy guy, but I don't know anybody better to help you with some of these things that we talked about today. So I guess we'll leave it at that. He gave us a lot of good information on subject 2, affiliate marketing, RealFlow. Guys, there's a lot you can take away from this podcast. Until the next one, I'll see you when I see you. Thanks, Tim, for coming on.
You bet, Connor. Good luck. Thanks, everybody.